Acolytes. Why people hate Asmongold from Pada. Could recommended this one. So, let's see why this is. And by the way, I'm gonna be honest. I am a fan of Asmongold. Not gonna lie. It is what it is. But I also don't agree with everything that he says. So, maybe there's that. But, let's just hear this man out.
I find it quite strange how a lot of people on the internet just jump to conclusions without any hint of evidence. It's sad to see how critical thinking seems almost...
Of course. This word, fascist, if you're a Nazi, it's right now, this entire thing is just a buzzword. It's literally meaningless at this point. Sorry about that, acolytes. I'm trying a new setup, and for some effing reason it just doesn't work. But hey, it is what it is. So, yeah, as I said, buzzwords meaningless these days. Sadly. It had a meaning, but right now...
endangered among the chronically online. A lot of people just follow trends of hatred without actually taking the time to find evidence to back up their accusations. Just because a lot of people are saying something doesn't make it true. We've seen this happen with a lot of public figures, especially in recent years. A good example would be J.K. Rowling. I'm convinced the majority of people who hate her do so simply because others do, because it's become a popular trend. I remember watching a video on critical thinking by a teacher, Warren Smith. In this video, Warren challenges a student of his to actually think for themselves on this exact topic. All he did was encourage his students to broaden his perspective and look into the situation himself, using rationality and critical thinking.
So let's get...
By the way, fantastic guy, on point, beautifully done. Just beautifully done. I hope I find the link to his video and post it. But probably, as I know myself, acolytes, I will forget it.
Get specific though. Let's define bigoted opinions. What opinions are bigoted? We're going to treat this as a thought experiment. I'm not going to say what's right or wrong or what way to think. The whole point is to learn how to think, not what to think. So when you say bigot, you're starting with the conclusion that given her bigoted opinions. So first, let's start with, does she have bigoted opinions? So when you say bigoted opinions,
she has.
So I guess now that we're looking at it like, oh, there's not much difference between me or her. Do you think it's fair that she's being attacked by a large group of people and people are calling her, like you said at the beginning of this conversation, you said, given the fact that J.K. Rowling is transphobic, how do you feel about Harry Potter? Now, retroactively looking at that statement, do you think that was the best way to phrase?
No, I feel like an idiot now.
Warren Smith then apparently...
Lovely, by the way. If you just can admit that you made a mistake, that's already such a big thing, acolytes. It doesn't take a lot to just make the world just a bit of a better place, acolytes. Maybe a bit extra necromancy, but that's all then.
Got fired from his teaching job for encouraging critical thinking.
So it happened yesterday. I was fired from my full-time teaching position.
This decline in critical thinking is one of the many reasons I believe a lot of people dislike Asmongold. In certain online spaces, especially among specific communities, there's a lot of hate towards him that is unwarranted and simply built on lies. The more I looked into this, the weirder this echo chamber became.
Asmongold is just like someone who makes a living off stealing from other people.
It's like, you're a racist motherfucker. Asmongold is a fascist. He's just like, actually one of the purest examples of the moderate wing of fascism thing. Also, Asmongold's editor is a Nazi.
So Adolf Jr. over here.
This is the fake laugh he does, and I don't respect him at all. I don't know, maybe his audience is like 12-year-old boys. Maybe they really buy this and think it's funny.
He's racist.
Wine bombed himself. Okay, fair enough.
In my research for this video, I genuinely tried to find actual substantial reasons for the hate outside of the lies. I'm an advocate of trying to see both sides' perspectives on any topic, so I found quite a few videos on YouTube that I'd like to unpack and try to understand why there is so much hate against Asmongold. First off, by what I've seen, a lot of the hate against Asmongold seems to have stemmed from other YouTubers' disdain for React content. In my research, I stumbled across a video titled Asmongold is Bad, Why I Don't Like Asmongold Videos, by a channel called Savior 3.0. In this video, we hear the usual rant about React content having a negative impact on other channels and YouTube as a platform.
He gets...
And by the way, it was proven that if you do it in a certain way, you have to wait like a day at a minimum, represent the channel and add to it to a certain degree, like to a high degree, so it doesn't get like literal stealing. And if you do all of those things, then then our reaction can be symbiotic with the entire, like with the content you react to. And I inform myself to a very high degree about it, just to know, okay, am I actually doing something that I would agree with or be okay with myself if this happened to me. And it's, let's just say it's fine.
The benefit from all of this unpaid labor. He gets the benefit from all of this hard work from other content creators, but he doesn't actually have to do any of the heavy lifting.
This YouTuber then played an excerpt from a large and actually pretty popular channel called Dark Viper AU, where he...
By the way, Dark Viper's arguments against reaction content, because they are so broad, also work against games or just gaming in general. So, you know, his argumentation was well thought through to a certain degree, but he just didn't think, okay, can I use this against, well, my side? And you can.
Spoke in depth about why React content is bad for channels and the platform as a whole, using Asmongold as the primary example.
Over the last few months, I've learned that very few people seem to understand why React content is harmful. React content is a system of exploitation that siphons an incalculable amount of money and exposure away from the hard-working into the pockets of the incredibly lazy.
Dark Viper had some decent points and clearly did a lot of research into this, but somehow in this whole video he missed what I believe is the most important aspect of React content. I'll actually read a comment that I found while watching this video because I think it best describes the problem with this argument. I don't agree with the idea that reaction content is stealing. When watching someone like Asmongold, it's not about the original video content itself, but rather about his personal take and commentary. People watch him because they want to hear his thoughts, see his reactions, and experience his unique perspective. His popularity is built on his personality and how he engages with...
And by the way, this is total bollocks. It got misproven, not even... How was it? The background NPC shot from 300 to these days, she's actually at 134,000 subs. Yeah, the girl is rich just because Asmongold reacted once to her stuff. Yeah, that's freaking insane. It's just, yeah, sorry. No.
The content, not just the content itself. Even if he simply talked about the videos without showing them, his audience will still tune in because they're following him and his reactions, not just the video being reacted to. Reaction content requires charisma, personal insight, and the ability to entertain, which is what draws viewers in. This is nearly a perfect comment in the context of Asmongold, but the only thing that is disputable is that not all React content is actually done in good faith. Some of it is blatant stealing. The Actman has a fantastic video titled The Dark Side of React Content that I completely recommend on this subject. In fact, in his video, he even mentions how Asmongold reacting to one of his videos, yes, affected its viewership negatively, but how he spoke to Asmongold and Asmon agreed to watch his videos a few days after release in the future.
What I realized is that if you're a big creator who's going to react to someone's video, you should wait at least 4 days for it to be pushed in the algorithm naturally. And that's what Asmon and I talked about and agreed on after this happened.
The Actman then went on to talk about the positive impact reactors like Asmongold have had on his channel.
Some might say, but Actman, he's stealing views from you. Those views belong to you. Maybe they do. I can't say for certain, but what I can say is a lot of people who are subscribed to my channel wouldn't be subscribed if Asmongold never made these videos.
Although I agree with aspects of Dark Viper AU's video, there's something he says here at 15 minutes and 5 seconds that I completely disagree with.
I hope by the end of this video that you will come to understand why this exposure and money would either entirely or almost entirely have gone to other content creators if not for Asmongold's interference. Not just the people that Asmongold steals labor from, but everyone in the wider market.
You could easily say the same thing about every single channel on YouTube, including Dark Viper AU. Dark Viper has 1.5 billion views that could have otherwise gone somewhere else if he didn't have his channel.
Bottom line, a React video has the same value proposition as going to a movie with a friend. Seeing and discussing a movie with a friend can be more enjoyable than seeing it alone, but you would never say that the friend who took you to the movie should get a cut of the movie's proceeds for sitting in the chair and giving you his opinion on it.
This for me is a gross oversimplification of what is really happening. I would say that React content is more likened to movie commentary. People choose to watch Asmongold or other React creators simply because they are entertaining. Dark Viper AU's video, while incredibly well made, also lacks a very basic understanding. People prefer to watch React content over original videos.
Correctly, and it has this Pelden dynamic, because you have a friend in there that you can react with them and be like, yeah, that's funny and stuff. And the thing is, and this isn't a diss on Dark Viper, but the fact is, the guy has a mental illness that shoots his behavior to very uncomfortable heights. And this isn't anything that I want to show that he is. No, that's just a fact. You have a lot of videos that just show how he just totally goes out on his friends like they are nothing. Like they are nothing to him. And it's because of his mental illness. And it is what it is. But you just have to know the context behind it. Dark Viper, what I want to say with that is that Dark Viper just doesn't know how people normally act with each other, because he has a very hard time of actually knowing that, because he himself, well, quite frankly, just doesn't really know how to behave in a social environment.
Behind every single view is a real person living their real life by choosing how they spend their time. The argument that Asmongold interferes with other people's ability to make money is a massive over-exaggeration. This video clumps people who watch Asmongold as this collective hive mind that doesn't really think for itself. I would consider myself an Asmongold enjoyer, and I have absolutely nothing to do with anyone else who watches Asmongold's videos. I just choose what I want to do with my time as a casual guy going about my life.
What you do not see is every time any reaction video appears where your video would have otherwise appeared. Any time where one of your videos would have got an impression, except it then went to a reaction video. You also do not see every time a reaction video is chosen by a viewer instead of one of your videos.
Now, I am not saying what Dark Viper is arguing is entirely untrue. There are people who would have watched some of these videos without first having seen them through Asmongold. But there's absolutely no way of knowing this, especially to what extent. If it were as simple as Dark Viper AU puts it, then I don't think React channels are the real issue anyway. Consumers choose how they want to spend their time, and that's ultimately what drives viewership. Dark Viper tried to dispute this argument in his video by explaining that just because there is a market for it doesn't mean it's a good thing. In my opinion, this argument is possibly the most important on the subject, but Dark actually didn't give a strong enough point to argue against the market deciding on this.
But shouldn't the market decide? No! There is a market for every terrible thing you can imagine. The existence of demand for something does not justify meeting that demand through exploitative means.
The primary message behind Dark Viper's video is that React content is objectively bad or objectively immoral, without giving any hint of acknowledging its nuances. I believe it's important to conclude that React content as a concept has subjectively and objectively good or bad sides depending on the context. At the end of the day, we, the consumers, are in charge. We dictate who profits by where we spend our money or our time. Yes, it's never good as consumers to support something that is explicitly illegal or immoral, but this is why I am challenging this idea that React content is just outright bad. I think what Dark Viper AU is saying is ultimately in good faith, and there is a lot of truth in this video. I recommend...
This is the thing, I also think that his arguments are in good faith at the end of the day. Even though I hardly disagree with it, and I already made a Dark Viper video, argued against him, had a neck on neck with his community, and at the end of the day, it's just proven wrong. Simple as that. There is nothing more or less behind it. He's just wrong. fair enough if he actually... You always have two sides to it, because I wouldn't compare Asmongold to someone like SS Sniper Wolf. Because SS Sniper Wolf does everything in bad faith that she does. And that's where I just, just draw the distinction between those people, because at the end of the day, there is always a few sides to something, and you just never know, it's just...
And watching this video, as it does have a lot of good points depending on context. Yes, there are a lot of bad actors out there that actually do just steal content without even giving any credit.
True.
This does exist, and I am all for breaking this culture where possible. But I disagree with the argument that all of it is just plain destructive. I had the privilege of having Asmongold react to the very first video I made, the current state of AAA gaming, about 4 or 5 months ago. Because of this, and Asmongold following up by watching 4 more of my videos, my channel exploded. I even memed him about this.
Pretty, isn't it? Perfectly balanced. It's all...
Subscribers aren't really the driving force behind YouTube's success anymore. The algorithm now prioritizes videos with strong watch time relative to their length. Every time Asmongold has watched one of my videos, thousands of people have popped in to leave a like, comment, or even subscribe, which is awesome, don't get me wrong. But then naturally, they click off and go about their day as they should. It only takes a few seconds for them to do this, but in the background, YouTube is tracking how long people are actually watching the video as they visit my channel. When thousands of viewers only stick around for under 10 seconds, YouTube's algorithm starts flagging the video as not worth recommending. At the end of the day, YouTube only cares about one thing: advertising revenue, which comes from watch time. So yes, this is a negative, but in the long run, React content can still be incredibly beneficial. While the initial burst of traffic from a big creator's reaction may not convert into consistent viewership right away, it does something equally important. It puts your content in front of...
Yeah, the thing is, the eyes are on you. People see you. You can actually act upon it. That's the thing. You can use this. It's not just bad. You can literally use the thing that people know about you. It's that people just don't understand it, because I have the same freaking thing with Scouter V. Scouter V just... He likes to watch my stuff because he then knows, okay, I can do this better. Okay, he understood this joke, he didn't understand this joke. Okay, I can better my content because of it. And this is just something that I personally love. I love that Scouter V just uses the things that he knows that he does and just improves upon them. That's something beautiful. I love that. And that's how I would wish that a lot of more people would actually react to. Well, react content, reaction. You know what I mean. It's just use this and try to make something positive out of it.
Of a massive audience that would have otherwise never discovered you. Even if a large percentage of these viewers don't stick around, a small fraction will. Those who genuinely enjoy your content beyond the reaction will come back and watch more of your videos and engage with your channel over time. These are the people who become part of your core audience, the ones who comment regularly, watch your videos, and support your growth. Beyond that, exposure from React content can also boost credibility. When a well-known creator reacts to your work, it signals to their audience that you're someone worth checking out. In my case, having Asmongold react to my videos helped give me credibility as a voice in the gaming space.
I'm gonna be honest, like this guy, he's really cooking with this video. I actually think this is probably one of the best dissections of like the philosophy behind why these things happen in games that like I've seen. This is really good.
This kind of recognition can and has opened doors to collaborations, sponsors, and other opportunities that wouldn't have otherwise been possible. I also think that a potential fix would be a system where YouTube splits revenue from React channels, creating a more collaborative platform. But
that's actually not half of a bad... of a bad idea. That's... Yeah, that would be actually quite nice. Because then people will finally, I think, shut up about it, first of all. And second of all, that's profitable for both of the sides. Okay. No, that... Okay. I mean, I would be fine with it. Gonna be honest here, yeah?
This is just wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Just a quick
Okay,
side
fair
note
enough.
on this. I've recently been seeing people say that Asmongold's React videos are just him nodding or agreeing or raising his eyebrows the whole time.
Asmongold gets involved. That's right. The guy that will play a YouTube video in its entirety occasionally raises eyebrows and says the word sure a lot, like the person in the video is in the room with him.
Anyone who actually takes a few minutes to look into this would see that this is just not true. Just look at my video side by side, the reactions he made on them. He clearly adds a lot to these conversations. Now, beyond the React content argument, going back to Savior 3.0's video, he then tries to go deeper into the premise that Asmongold is the most nihilistic person he has ever seen.
He doesn't hold much moral values. He seems to basically flip-flop between any type of argument which basically benefits him to his audience. He doesn't have any moral consistency, it seems like, from a lot of his advice and a lot of the stuff that he talks about. It seems Asmongold views values as baseless, and he doesn't hold religion or morality with much regard. He might sometimes communicate the usefulness in the individual and society and benefiting society and all that stuff, but it seems like most of his arguments seem to flip-flop because he is literally living in a tiny little echo chamber of basically a Redditor, addicted gamer who somehow got famous.
There's almost no evidence in his video that he has actually ever watched an Asmongold video, because he even states that Asmongold preaches his lifestyle to his massive audience, which clearly couldn't be further from the truth.
The problem with that is if he doesn't have any educational insights, if he doesn't do any self-development of himself, but he's preaching educational ideas to the masses, this is very destructive and it reinforces, you know, nihilistic tendencies to his audience, and a lot of these people are rather down bad.
Asmongold thinks that he is an animal and nobody should... He probably
And I would say these are people without integrity and morality, and he's reinforcing these ideas to them because he doesn't have any education himself.
Now, to properly dissect what he is saying, yes, Asmongold has definitely shared some nihilistic takes in the past, but I wouldn't say he has fully embraced nihilism in its traditional sense. For those who aren't aware, nihilism is defined as the rejection of all religious and moral principles, in the belief that life is meaningless. Yes, Asmongold has shared his take on how he believes life is meaningless in the grand scheme of things.
I place like pretty much no value in like principles or morality. I think that these are top-down ideas that are given to you by the elites. And I think that if you look at most people that are in like an advantageous position, those people don't follow any of those morals or ideals at all.
But at the same time, he also seems to balance that with a more pragmatic or even absurdist outlook, arguing that if life has no built-in meaning, we can still create our own.
Because it's not like an aimless life. I do what I want to do. So you have goals? I do have some goals. Yeah, I have things that I want to do, right?
But he by no means has ever encouraged or preached at his audience to have the same mindset that he has himself. In fact, there's a lot of evidence on YouTube alone pointing to the contrary.
Nobody should watch my stream and say, I want to be like this animal. Listen, I don't think anybody with a successful life should want to be like me. And I really mean that. I genuinely mean that. You don't want to live the way that I live. The way that I live is not some sort of enlightened in Buddhist nirvana. It is absolute pure degeneracy.
There is this natural tendency that we have as humans to automatically put up a guard against beliefs or worldviews that are either completely unfamiliar to us or contrary to what we ourselves believe. Not everyone is like this, but a lot of us are like this. Nihilism is easy to correlate with historical or fictional figures who have had a negative impact on their society. Some of us might have even experienced personal grief from people with similar worldviews. But this in no way gives ground for automatic hate, nor does it give justification for spreading lies. Now, I do want to ask, please do not go onto Savior's channel to harass him or attack him. He's genuinely trying to convey a message he deeply believes in, and I would say good for him for doing that. We can simply disagree and move on. As Aristotle once wrote, it is a mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it.
Yep. Fair enough.
This brings me to my next point on why some people dislike Asmongold. There's a strange tendency, especially among those chronically online, to equate disagreeing with someone to hating them. Asmongold says some pretty crazy unhinged stuff, and he doesn't back down. And we all know people don't like it when others are like this.
America deserved 9/11, dude. I'm saying it.
A good example of this would be the controversies surrounding Asmongold's take on AI and art last year.
Artists' opinions don't matter because what matters is the opinion of the people that are buying the product.
It's genuinely sad that people seem unable to disagree in a healthy, constructive way. Asmongold doesn't shy away from controversial takes, and some people don't like this. I've gone around many Twitch and YouTube channels throughout the last year, and I find it fascinating how most channels are easily seen as mini echo chambers. I don't think many help dispute these claims, but I can also see how those who don't actually watch Asmongold can point fingers at his channel and say the same thing. But I've actually never seen a content creator who sides against his entire audience live as much as Asmongold does. He clearly doesn't pander to his audience. The man has even riled me up at times with some of his takes.
Like, the fact that Halo Infinite didn't launch with an official Battle Royale mode is unforgivable.
But I believe this is actually healthy, and I'll explain why later. I came across this video titled The Most Disgusting Man of All Time, Asmongold, by a YouTuber named The Angry Asian. I watched it hoping he'd present a solid argument with some real weight to it. Unfortunately, despite the video being 13 minutes and 38 seconds long, he only spent about 1 minute actually accusing Asmongold of anything substantial.
He genuinely has the most racist and misogynistic takes on gaming and just in general that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Is that whenever I see like a game that comes out and it has, you know, this is feudal Japan and like the main character is a black guy and a girl, I immediately there's like no escapism that this can provide because the entire story is built on the foundation of trying to appeal to a quote modern audience.
And even in this clip, Asmongold makes a valid point. If a game is set in historical feudal Japan, it shouldn't call itself historical while altering history just so the developers can push a political agenda. This guy literally spent the rest of the whole video ranting about Asmongold's living choices and hygiene.
How do people view Asmongold as a respected streamer and they value his opinions on gaming or just any topic in general when this dead ass lives in his landfill that he calls a house? Would you give a single shit what a homeless person living under a bridge on a highway has to say to you? More than likely, you wouldn't give a single what he has to say. So why would you care what Asmongold has to say? Because let's be honest here, guys. Those homeless people living under a bridge 1000% are cleaner than this motherfucker. How else do you look at this motherfucker by not just saying, this dude is nasty as
Substantial hate that comes from a place of genuine critical thinking will always result in real evidence of why there is the hate. If we look at history or even fiction, there are many figures that automatically draw hate out of us, mostly because of at least one fundamental cause. At least one decision that these figures have made that have brought this hate upon themselves. And it is always a decision that has affected other beings. Saying that you hate Asmongold because you think he is gross when his decisions actually don't negatively impact anyone but himself shows me that there is a problem with you more than there is a problem with Asmon. I would understand wanting to show him maybe compassion or sympathy, but this has no grounds for hate. I would completely understand the hate if he had maybe a wife or a child or a pet that he was directly affecting, but he doesn't. Why is it then that so many people throw hate and shame at Asmongold for this? Now let's look at another reason for the hate against Asmongold. This one has no substance, and I know because I genuinely try to find evidence of this. But within some communities, we see people constantly trying to out Asmongold as a fascist, racist, sexist, and transphobe. Almost every argument on this is either completely baseless or just plain false. The closest thing to actual evidence that I can find to support this accusation of racism is Asmongold's controversy around his suspension on Twitch from October last year. Most people already know what happened, but I want to share my view on it so you can understand from my perspective why I believe at the end of the day, Asmongold's reaction to this gained him more respect from his core audience than it lost. First off, Asmongold messed up.
Correct.
He said something that was blatantly...
And this was something that I said from the start, Acolytes. I said from the start, that he actually messed up, not because he said the thing, but just because he effing lumped in all the people that have to do with it, like civilians, and just said heinous stuff because of it. Innocents that had nothing to do with it. He was like, yeah, I don't care about it. This was the point.
Prejudice against an entire culture. There is a level of truth from the perspective of extremist religions, but Asmongold didn't say this. Instead, he broad brushstroked his point and called out an entire culture. He messed up, but you know who also believes he really messed up here? Asmongold.
So a couple of days ago, I made some comments about Palestine, some just general, basically opinions that were trivializing the genocide that's happening there. I said something about it that was disgusting. I said that I didn't care about innocent people getting killed by another force, by anything. And I think that that's a horrible, disgusting, mean-spirited thing to say.
During the 2-week Twitch suspension Asmongold faced, I couldn't help but find either one of these two extreme views on the situation all over X. On one side, people were defending Asmongold and saying he was stating facts. And on the other side, we had people calling him racist, fascist, and words I don't even want to repeat here. But one thing that can't be disputed here is the fact that Asmongold actually messed up. He made an awful judgment on what he said, and he faced the consequences. Now, this is where I personally garnered enormous respect for him. Asmongold took responsibility for his actions. He didn't fight against it. In fact, he even showed gratitude for being held to account, because he was able to take a back step and see himself becoming someone that he found detestable.
This is what's so crazy about it. I think this has been going on now for like 2 years. I think that I've been slowly devolving into the most mean-spirited, rude, nasty, callous, a psychopathic version of myself. And a lot of my friends have told me this. My dad has told me this. He said, you've got to chill out. You've got to calm down. I've been like, that old man doesn't know what he's talking about. And I finally had some level of accountability for that. And thank God.
His response to the situation really showed his true colors. He took the L and he apologized. I then couldn't believe the reaction from some of his own audience when he apologized. Some of them believed Asmongold followed an unwritten golden rule of never apologizing under any circumstances, which is clearly a complete misinterpretation of his actual stance. Asmongold has always stood by the principle of not apologizing in the context of pandering to people for a level of false peace or tolerance. He has always been against apologizing if you don't believe you've done anything wrong. Apologizing is never a weakness if it's genuine. I believe Asmongold's reaction bettered quite a lot of his audience. People seeing him respond like this challenged them as well. Maybe not enough people actually saw what really happened here, but it was a genuine sign of good character that I wish I saw in other content creators or influencers. This is one of the reasons I still have a lot of love and respect for PewDiePie to this day. One of my favorite words in the world is the word accountable. Humans are extremely fallible and we can have some pretty terrible blind spots in our lives. So any content creator that advocates for accountability is a content creator that I believe is worth following. I don't believe this controversy makes Asmongold a racist. It actually just reaffirms Asmongold as being a genuine fallible dude who can own his faults and advocate for bettering himself. Another reason I like Asmongold is he tends to play devil's advocate against himself. Asmongold has this beautiful ability at times to approach controversial subjects in good faith. It's something I've noticed about him over the years, and it's definitely a quality I hope he never loses.
And the thing is, I also just had to... I always approached it from what I call the most realistic way of thinking, but at the end of the day, it was just bad faith arguing on my part. And after I actually realized it, everything went better. Simple as that. It was just, I started to think about things, double down, and just try to see it from the most positive thought I could. And only if it was like, okay, good, there is no hope for it, then I say, okay, good, I think I looked at every single thing that I could and then just decided, no, okay, that's just not what's happening here. This is done. But until then, hey.
He doesn't always do this, but when he does, I find myself personally challenged. This has naturally encouraged his audience, including me, to have a slightly broader perspective when looking into controversial topics where people usually have an established bias. Take, for instance, a post on X last year from Kelly Lombardi, a global games product marketing manager at Xbox. Given how polarizing the gaming industry has become in recent years, it would be easy to look at her post and label her as an anti-white liberal elitist and move on. If anyone had the prerogative to lean into that narrative, it would be Asmongold. But instead, Asmongold challenged his audience and himself by sharing how he viewed Kelly's post from her perspective.
Am I the person that's going to have the hot take that this isn't really that big of a deal and I don't really find this to be inherently racist? The problem is that when you're a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And I don't think this one's a nail, guys. I don't. Like, I don't think that this is advocating for, like, any sort of exclusion. I don't think it's advocating for degradation. I don't think this one is that big of a deal. Am I crazy? And I get how you could perceive this as being bad. I do. And, like, I totally see that. But, like, I try to interpret things in good faith.
Seeing him do this really struck me at the time, and it pushed me to rethink my own assumptions. It even bettered me as a man in how I approach things critically. Because my original approach to this post was anything but graceful. Like I said, Asmongold doesn't always do this, but he does do this, and it always gets his audience either thinking or actually annoyed. Another great trait that I believe Asmongold has that I personally like is that he stands behind what he believes. Although I sometimes disagree with Asmongold's approach to tackling some of these issues, I really appreciate how he doesn't back down from what he believes in, regardless of how unpopular his opinion is, even live with his audience. Maybe it's pure stubbornness, but I think it's good because it gets his audience thinking. Something for me that shows either really good character or a complete lack of caring is that despite immense wealth and fame, Asmongold doesn't change. I'm not really going to talk about the subject too much because it could just come from a place of genuinely not caring. But I've seen wealth do some pretty terrible things to some pretty awesome people. And I'm glad Asmongold just stayed true to being himself.
Didn't hire a maid for a multi-million-dollar mansion. He stayed humble for real. 100p on a stack.
It is far too easy to demonize someone by taking what they say out of context or pushing your own bias using their own videos against them. So you could argue that I did the same thing here, but instead of demonizing Asmongold, I did the opposite. I'm not saying that Asmongold is without his faults. I'm just saying it's worth thinking critically about these things for yourself and coming to your own conclusions. I think one of my goals with my YouTube channel is to try and help pull people out of any type of echo chamber they might be a part of. I find myself easily slipping into echo chambers that support my own biases, but I'm always trying to broaden my perspective and look at things a little bit more critically.
By the way, that's correct. It's very easy to actually confirm your biases or look for confirmation than actual truth. That's something that, as he said, it's just or something that I fell into, and I am freaking so ashamed of actually doing it. This, like, to a certain degree, I was just like, oh, for F's sake, nah, brothers, acolytes, I just, Sometimes I should have thought about things way harder than I did. But hey, it is what it is. You live, you learn, you progress, simply.
A lot of the hate Asmongold gets, at least the kind people think is genuinely justified, comes down to ideological differences. If you look around X, Reddit, and YouTube, you'll find plenty of posts from people who strongly believe in ideas like DEI, identity politics, or even critical race theory, going after Asmongold simply because he speaks out against these ideas. What's interesting is that a lot of these people don't seem to engage with his actual points or arguments. They just see that he challenges certain progressive ideas and instantly label him as problematic or toxic. It's more about defending their own worldview than actually considering what he is saying. In reality, his views often seem more about calling out the extremes on both sides rather than attacking any one group. But of course, nuance doesn't always fit into the internet's outrage cycle. Now, I do want to add a disclaimer that I don't always agree with everything Asmongold says or does. Politically and philosophically, we have quite a few differing perspectives, especially when it comes to some of our worldviews. But this in no way should ever be a reason for me to spread hate towards him. Because I sometimes disagree with him, he has actually encouraged me to see things from a different perspective, which I appreciate and has actually taught me a lot. It's natural for people to hate people. We're born with this instinct. Yes. I personally try not to hate anyone myself, but that's because I build my life on my Christian beliefs and worldview, and I also want to honor God with my life. But one thing I don't believe anyone should ever do is spread unnecessary hate towards anyone, especially if it has no substance. I am an advocate of holding individuals or corporations accountable for their actions or behaviors, if there is genuine warranted evidence to do so.
Hey, fair enough. I mean, the end, no.
Thank you everyone for watching my video, and thank you so much to my Patreons for all your support. I might do a part 2 on this in the far future, but I just really wanted to get my thoughts out on here because I've been seeing this conversation for a little too long without any level of critical thinking from a lot of people. And like I said, please can we not harass anyone? I do not want to spread hate. That is the complete opposite of what I'm trying to do here. Let's all make this a beautiful place where we can all disagree healthily. If you completely disagree with any of my points, I would love to actually converse with you in the comments below. Let's keep it civil, obviously, but I really want to see some of your perspectives on any of these topics, and maybe we can all work together to better YouTube and better the internet in any shape or form.
Hey, that would be nice, but hey, at the end of the day, this was a very good video. I think it's just, the thing is, yes, that people just tend to go in and just be like, hey, if everyone just because of pure self-indulgence or just because they think they are correct. And as funny as it sounds, most of the time it's actually done in good faith or from a protective thing where you just don't want anyone that you like being harmed. You know, that's just... But at the end of the day, acolytes, it's just try not to be hateful, and that's all, acolytes. That's all I want to say. Just summon sometimes a few, well, zombies if you need to. Do your thing, and it will be fine. It just will be. But, as it is, acolytes, good night.